AskReddit by embark. What made you walk out of an interview? So we expect our employees to go above and beyond, and went on to say that basically everyone will work 60 hours a week for 40 hours of pay. Let me guess, Amazon. Do you plan to have a child? You should not ask someone if they are pregnant or planning to have kids. Better yet, if the candidate is able and willing to work away from home or work overtime. It could be illegal depending on where you live. When the head of the company wanted me to get on my knees in his office and offer a prayer to Jesus. Get behind me, Satan. Told me they wouldn't pay me for the first 3 months. That's called a scam. Having to pay for my own training. If you're in the US, that's illegal. The person interviewing me asked me if I was willing to drop out of my graduate program. He got upset when I said no. Well, like a family here, nope, bye. I should have walked out when it started with "you don't seem qualified for this position." Instead, I got the job and left after 6 days. Sounds like the job wasn't qualified for you. A guy offered me a whole $20 per hour to build and run an entire new division of his business for him. I applied for an IT position. I was called in to interview for an IT position. I get there, and they started interviewing me for a sales position. Nope, right out. Don't get me wrong. I'm great at sales. But I don't take kindly to being lied to about what I'm going to be interviewing for, especially when I didn't put in for that job. Not a job interview per se, but I was applying to rent an apartment. The application process required you to meet with the landlord and provide references, so it was kinda like finding a job. I showed up on time for the meeting, the time given to me over the phone by the landlord, and he immediately starts laying into me for being half an hour late, and what that must say about my ability to be a good tenant. I was certainly on time. After tolerating this for 30 seconds, because I thought I wanted to live there, I realized I needed no part of living under this fool and just got back in my car. Realized it was a door-to-door sales job. Asked them where we headed for the day, just so happened that my house was on the way. So I got a lift out of my interview. Oh, I know the fucker in here wants what we're selling, but he's not answering the door. Let me just go in here and find him. Takes out keys, opens door and goes inside, closes door. I was interviewing with a very senior tech guy at Reuters. He was doing his best to trip me up and he wasn't succeeding. He was clearly getting very frustrated and he started to become borderline abusive. I interrupted the interview and said, "I get the feeling you're less interested in what I know and more interested in what I don't know. I do not think I'm right for this role." He said he was sorry, then continued along the same lines of questioning. He finally asked me some arcane technical question and I responded, "Well, in that case, I would route the main phases through the antenna array, and try to slingshot the Enterprise around the sun so time would go backwards." I then stood up, repeated that I wasn't right for this role, and left the interview. The next day he offered me the job. Did you take it? The HR lady greeted me, we shook hands, and we sat down. She then said with a polite and positive tone, "There was a mix-up and the position has already been filled. But we can use this as an opportunity to practice." She quickly transitioned and started to ask me about my qualifications. For a moment, I actually started to answer her. But I paused mid-sentence, processing what she had said, and then, without saying anything another word, I stood up and walked away. Lied about the position and salary until the interview. Unpaid mandatory training. About 20 minutes into the interview, the advertised customer service job turned out to be door-to-door sales. Not so much walkout, but I refused to go to an interview after they called me and demanded to know if I will work any day at any time for any hours. They wanted an answer right then and there and were quite pushy and rude. They laughed when I said that I need to discuss that with my family first to know for sure if there are any days that don't work for me. Didn't even ask my name or anything else about me. For a major corporate company. As if I don't have a life and more important responsibilities and time of my own. When I lived in Nick, I was given the impression that I was going to interview for a sports marketing position. But they drove a group of us out deep into Queens to sell random junk, such as duck umbrellas, door to door at various mom and pop businesses. This was before Uber was a thing and I didn't know where the subway was. It didn't feel safe to venture out on my own, so I stuck with the group for the day before it was time to return back to headquarters. They told me to go back into the building to speak with the manager, but I said, no thanks, and booked it from there. It was at a bread bakery. Firstly, the guy interviewing me didn't even know I was there. It took someone going to the break room to get a glass of water to notice me and let him know almost 15 minutes late. Secondly, he barely interviewed me. He took me out onto the bakery floor and just started working while explaining to me what time to come and to work and almost nothing about what I would actually be doing. Mostly about how I was expected to be on time. Being late 3 times would get me fired, and you will be working each and every holiday. Then immediately asked when I can start. I said never if this is what your idea of an interview is. I then turned around and left. No other word said. Sounds like you stepped through a portal to 1970s New York. I picture you as John Travolta and the baker as the guy from Mel's Diner. I can't remember what the advertising was for, but when I arrived, it seemed suspect. Another new college grad was also in the same office and we both were a little confused. Ended up being door-to-door sales. We both walked out. Mostly because the whole being lied to thing. Bad vibes. I literally felt uncomfortable during the interview, so I thanked them for the time opportunity and told them this wasn't going to be a good fit. Fun job supporting the environment. It was a door-to-door canvassing sales job. It was a group interview. As soon as I got the gist of it, I stood up and excused myself. It became clear I was in some sort of MLM scam. It was a phone interview with a recruiter, but I finally told him that I just couldn't understand what he was saying, accent, and that I didn't see the point of continuing the call.